Tonight, deadly turbulence. An airline passenger killed, dozens more in hospital. The plane plunging thousands of feet. Terrifying accounts of mid-air mayhem.
Just personally having.
Canada's stance on arrest warrants for the leaders of Hamas and Israel.
What I will say is troubling is the sense of an equivalency.
The bottom line on slowing inflation.
Inflation is at a 3-year low.
What it means for interest rates.
This report certainly moves the needle.
Plus, serial killer Robert Pickton in critical condition, beat up in prison, how his victims' families are reacting. And hearing double.
Hey, ChatGPT.
The Hollywood A-lister's outrage and legal battle over an AI voice she says sounds just like her.
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. The dramatic and deadly drop in the sky lasted mere seconds with devastating and enduring consequences. A man is dead and at least 30 are injured after a Singapore Airlines jet encountered violent turbulence. CTV's Heather Wright starts us off with the chaos in the cabin.
Several passengers had to be carried off a Singapore Airlines flight on stretchers, ambulances taking them to hospital. More than 70 people were hurt after the plane, traveling from London to Singapore, hit severe turbulence. A 73-year-old British man was killed. He has been identified as Jeff Kitchen, described by his theater group as a gentleman with the utmost honesty and integrity. Passengers describe a chaotic scene on board the plane, saying it dropped suddenly and anyone not wearing a seatbelt was launched immediately, including the cabin crew.
Every single cabin crew person I saw was injured in some way or another, maybe with a pressure on their head.
People's heads denting overhead bins, oxygen masks left dangling from the ceiling.
When you hit severe turbulence like that, the first thing is you go up and you hit the overhead bins, and that's where the injuries, get head injuries, neck injuries, back injuries.
Flight SQ-321 was diverted to Bangkok, Thailand, where tents were set up on the tarmac to triage the injured, 6 of whom had critical injuries. Passengers say the seatbelt light went on shortly before they hit what experts say was likely clear air turbulence, which is difficult to avoid because it doesn't show up on the weather radar in the cockpit.
You can't see it, you can't forecast it. It's just where these air masses collide and causes some severe updrafts and downdrafts.
Deaths caused by turbulence are rare. According to the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States, between 2009 and 2021, 146 passengers and crew members were seriously injured because of turbulence.
In a statement, Singapore Airlines offered its deepest condolences to the family of the man killed, while Boeing, the manufacturer of the airplane, says it is ready to help in any way it can. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Families who lost loved ones aboard an airliner shot down by Iran in 2020 say the death of the Iranian president robs them of a chance at seeking justice. Ibrahim Raisi's casket arrived in Tehran today. The 63-year-old hardliner was a protege of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Raisi and the country's foreign minister were killed when their helicopter crashed in a remote mountainous area on Sunday. Rescue crews found no survivors. Canada weighed in today on the International Criminal Court's top prosecutor's decision to seek arrest warrants for Israeli and Hamas leaders. It comes on the same day the United Nations said it suspended food distribution in the southern Gaza city of Rafah because of a lack of supplies and safety. Here's CTV's Judy Trent.
As famine takes hold as bombs fall, Israel is launching attacks on a new front against the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court.
This guy is out to demonize Israel. He's doing a hit job. He's creating a false symmetry between the democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist chieftains.
No one can act with impunity.
Karim Khan is seeking arrest warrants. He says there's evidence Benjamin Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, along with 3 Hamas leaders, have committed war crimes.
Israel has committed
Atrocities that amount to 40,000 people, there's no equation to that.
Israel is being accused of deliberately starving civilians. Today, the World Food Program said it's suspending deliveries of food, water, and fuel to northern Gaza because of unsafe conditions.
We need to get in at scale to be able to avert famine or also save those who are literally dying right now.
You will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza.
Facing protesters on Capitol Hill, the U.S. Secretary of State said the actions of the ICC could impact a ceasefire deal.
We're standing with Israel in its efforts to ensure that what happened on October 7th never happens again, as we do everything we can to bring an end to the terrible human suffering in Gaza.
It will take up to 2 months for the court to decide if it will issue the warrants.
We respect the independence of the ICC. All parties must make sure that they abide by international law, including international humanitarian law.
Israel doesn't recognize the legitimacy of the International Criminal Court, but 124 other nations do. If arrest warrants are issued, Benjamin Netanyahu could be arrested if he sets foot in a country under the jurisdiction of the ICC. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. The former U.S. president is facing backlash for video shared on his social media.
What happens after Donald Trump wins?
A unified Reich? That's Hitler's language. That's not America's.
The 30-second clip uses a term associated with Germany's Nazi government, referring to the creation of a unified Reich as fictionalized news headlines pop up of a Trump victory in November. His campaign says the video was posted by a junior staffer and that the video has been removed. Trump's criminal trial, the first ever of a former U.S. president, has moved closer to a verdict. Today, the defense rested its case after calling just 2 witnesses, but not Donald Trump himself. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Melvin.
For weeks, Donald Trump insisted he would defend himself. In the end, he didn't appear on the witness stand, but even under a gag order, Trump had plenty to say.
Being here almost 5 weeks in court, they have no case, there's no crime.
Before the cameras, Trump campaigns and fundraises, bringing in supporters who can say what he can't under that gag order. Trump's son defending his dad's decision not to testify.
The star witness in this case is a 9 times convicted liar, and now an admitted thief. That is who they're hanging the entire case on. The other one happens to be a porn star.
The key witness is Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, who testified Trump directed him to pay Stormy Daniels hush money just days before the 2016 election to keep her quiet about an alleged affair that could hurt Trump's chances at becoming president. Cohen testified he had more than 20 conversations with Trump about the hush money in October 2016. The payments, he says, disguised as legal services. But the defense has cast Cohen as a liar and convicted felon, trying to undercut his credibility with their final witness, lawyer Robert Costello, who testified Cohen told him numerous times that President Trump knew nothing about hush money payments. Prosecutors pushed back, saying Costello was part of a pressure campaign to stop Cohen from flipping on Trump. Cohen isn't the only witness, and his former lawyer insists there's a paper trail of evidence.
Was the money paid to Stormy Daniels primarily politically motivated? And it seems to me there's strong evidence for the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, to say yes.
Closing arguments are expected next Tuesday. Then it's up to the jury to decide the former president's fate. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
The former president is vying to be America's next president. And before voters head to the polls in November, the prime minister is leading a diplomatic charm offensive in the U.S. CTV's Mike LeCouture on the message.
Here in Pennsylvania, where Canada is your #1 export partner.
Call it the Charm Offensive 2.0. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's first trip to the United States since relaunching the Team Canada effort ahead of another possible Trump presidency.
The best argument as to why Canada shouldn't be hit with tariffs or punitive protectionist measures was that it would hurt American jobs as well.
It comes as Trump promised to impose 10% import duties on goods if he's elected president in November.
In 2023, trade between Canada and the U.S. amounted to over $1.3 trillion.
Now, Trudeau never mentioned the former president in his speech to one of the largest unions in North America, but he did underscore the damage that could be done by more protectionism.
And now that he's mentioning it, I will do my research to find out just how our import-export trade efforts will be impacted.
A recent Scotiabank report warned that a trade war could result in a drop of GDP by 3.6%. Canada is trying to get ahead of any trade trouble, like during the last Trump administration.
You know, the stakes are high enough that you want to put every kind of chance in your favor on that front.
As Canada's Minister of National...
There has been a steady stream of Canadian cabinet ministers south of the border. And while Canada's ambassador to the U.S. says Trump doesn't worry Canada, Kirsten Hillman points out a lot could change in Washington.
All members of the House are being re-elected this year, a third of the Senate as well as the White House, for presidency.
So while this was Trudeau's first visit to the U.S. on the renewed charm offensive, it certainly won't be his last between now and the American election. Omar?
CTV's Michael Couture in Philadelphia, where the Prime Minister also said he is sticking by the Speaker of the House despite a new controversy. Greg Fergus is a Liberal MP, but is meant to be nonpartisan in his role as Speaker. But Conservatives and Bloc MPs are calling for Fergus to resign over this invitation to a summer evening with Greg Fergus that also references reckless policies of the Conservatives. A new version was sent out today with that reference removed. Fergus faced criticism last December for wearing his Speaker's robes in a partisan video. In this case, the Liberal Party says the wording on the invitation was a miscommunication on its part. A new snapshot of Canada's annual inflation rate showed that it has slowed to a 3-year low, moving closer to the Bank of Canada's target. CTV's Sarah Plowman on what that means for the chances of a rate cut.
As the weather heats up, inflation is cooling, but Canadians aren't relaxing yet.
I don't see the slowing.
Inflation fell to 2.7% in April, down slightly from March. A slowdown led by food. Groceries aren't rising as fast as they used to, but gas kept inflation up. Canada's inflation rate has been falling. The question now is, will the Bank of Canada drop rates in 2 weeks?
It's a close call. They might wait an extra month and move in July, but this report certainly moves the needle perhaps in favor of a June rate cut.
I'm suspecting that they'll hold, even though we're overdue for a cut.
Mortgage rates and rents are still climbing, with double-digit rent increases in New Brunswick and Alberta.
Last 2 years has gone up. We were renting all in $1,300, now we're $1,900, $1,950.
In the House of Commons, the Conservatives attacked the Trudeau government over inflation and the carbon tax.
They're patting themselves on the back when they realize that Canadians can't afford to eat, heat, and house themselves.
While the Deputy Prime Minister defended their financial planning and spring budget.
Thanks to our fiscally responsible economic plan, inflation is at a 3-year low.
Amid a month-long boycott of Loblaw, an online farmers market in Edmonton is gaining customers.
I've actually seen a huge spike just in the last month.
Experts say food inflation will keep slowing.
We are expecting the food inflation rate to reach almost zero by the end of this year.
The Bank of Canada is set to share its next interest rate decision in 2 weeks, a day many Canadians are waiting for. Omar.
The next rate announcement on June 5th. All right, Sarah, thank you. Coming up.
I want him to suffer.
Relatives react to an attack on a BC serial killer, plus the showdown between a Hollywood superstar and a tech giant. One of Canada's most notorious serial killers has been hospitalized after what police are describing as life-threatening injuries caused by a fellow inmate at a Quebec prison. CTV's John Woodward has reaction from the families of Robert Picton's victims.
I want him to suffer.
Blunt reaction from Rick and Lynn Frey, parents of Marnie Frey, who died on Robert Picton's pig farm. Hearing about an attack in a Quebec prison that has the convicted serial killer clinging to life.
Some inmate had a broom handle
The Frays say their lawyer told them that broom handle was sharpened into a spear in the attack at the maximum security Port Cartier institution in Quebec on Sunday. Police say a 51-year-old inmate is the suspect, and the prison will investigate too.
The Correctional Service has a process in place to review all of these circumstances.
Picton was arrested in 2002. Police searched his farm to find remains and DNA of dozens of women. He was charged with 27 counts of first-degree murder and convicted of 6.
He really destroyed a lot of families. And
Angel Wolf's mother, Brenda Wolf, was killed by Picton.
He was a monster and he took my mother's life. So if he's going to lose his life now, you know what? Karma.
And the sister of another victim, Georgina Papin, says the news brought her to tears.
I felt very uplifted, actually.
In a book and telephone interviews from prison, Picton hinted at a much wider story.
I got on Sanderson, I could blow the whole thing apart.
But he never did testify. An inquiry showed how police mistakes allowed him to kill for longer and also underscored how few protections there were for his vulnerable victims. Many Indigenous, many drug users, or those with mental health concerns.
We have no beds, we don't have facilities, we don't have on and on and on. Same stuff as it is today. Nothing's changed.
In that sense, the Frays say the real lessons of the Picton saga remain unlearned. John Woodward, CTV News.
A judge appointed by the Vatican has cleared the Archbishop of Quebec of sexual abuse allegations from the 80s. The Pope asked a retired Quebec justice to look into an accusation dating back to the 80s against Cardinal Gerald Lacroix from an unnamed female plaintiff when she was 17. The allegation, which Lacroix has denied and hasn't been tested in court, is in a class action lawsuit against the church. Still ahead. Why Canadian Swifties are flying to Europe to see Taylor perform. An investigation has been opened into the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. LA police will look into how Perry had so much ketamine in his system when he died and where he got it. The 54-year-old Canadian actor was found face down in his hot tub in October. His death was ruled an accident, but the ketamine in his system was found to be a contributing factor. The granddaughter of Elvis Presley is suing to stop the sale of the late singer's iconic Graceland mansion. Riley Keough claims a false investment firm is trying to illegally sell the Memphis home. The company claims Elvis's late daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, used Graceland as collateral to take out a loan of $3.8 million, money she never paid back. Keough alleges the deal was fraudulent and her mother's signature was forged. And a Toronto Blue Jays fan is getting her own custom baseball card after a scary-looking injury. Liz McGuire posted a picture of herself with a massive welt on her forehead and a black eye. She was struck by a 110-mile-per-hour foul ball at last Friday's game. Somehow, she stayed until the end. The Jays rewarded her with a signed baseball and tickets to a future ball game, if she decides to go back. And Canadian Swiftie fans looking to catch Taylor Swift live are revealing a cheaper alternative to see the star. They've done the math, and they say the deal they've discovered is music to their ears. Here's CTV's Janice Golding.
Welcome to the Eras Tour. Taylor Swift has been called the reigning queen of pop, and tickets to her Eras Tour are selling for a princely sum.
They're all over $2,000, even for the 500 level.
In North America, concerts sold out almost immediately, with tickets popping right back up on resale sites for astronomical sums. Check out StubHub today. Single tickets for the November 14th concert at the Rogers Centre start at $2,800 and range up to $20,000.
Hey cousin, what are we doing this weekend? I guess we're going to Stockholm.
And that's why Nadia Badak and her cousin Sarah decided to go to Stockholm, Sweden.
Because our flights were fairly inexpensive. We got a free hotel off of points, and our tickets, we ended up paying, I think it was like $125 Canadian.
In all, the duo spent about $2,000 each for tickets, hotel accommodations, and flights. That's less than the current price for a single ticket to a Taylor Swift concert here at home. But price wasn't the only factor.
We tried for 20 different cities in the United States.
Frustrated with their luck, the cousins decided to go online Friday afternoon and were shocked to find tickets to a concert in Sweden the next day. The trip to Stockholm, not so easy, however. 3 flights and 2 lengthy delays, which made them miss the first songs of the opening act.
So we purchased our tickets around 2 p.m. and we were at the island airport on a flight at 6 p.m. So we had 30 minutes to pack.
The trip was a whirlwind. In fact, given work obligations, the duo had no time for sightseeing, and the cousins flew back the very next day. Still, Badoc says she has no regrets.
100% worth it. Yeah.
In fact, Nadia and Sarah have already bought their tickets and are planning their next trip to see Swift in Edinburgh this June. Janice Golding, CTV News.
After the break, a Hollywood A-lister challenges AI. ChatGPT agrees to stop using one of its AI voices after Scarlett Johansson claimed it sounded like her. An A-list celebrity is taking on OpenAI, she says, for copying her voice without her permission. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson on the battle.
Scarlett Johansson was famously the AI voice of Samantha in the 2013 film Her.
It seems like I'm having so many new feelings that I don't think have ever been felt before.
Now, listen to the new AI assistant Sky on ChatGPT.
You've got me on the edge of my... Well, I don't really have a seat, but you get the idea.
Sounds similar? Johansson sure thinks so, writing, "I was shocked, angered, and in disbelief."
I think it's self-evident that they tried to mimic her voice.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says the voice of Sky was never intended to resemble Johansson. But consider this, Johansson says Altman approached her last September, asking if she would lend her voice to the system. She declined. The day ChatGPT's new model was released last week, Altman tweeted the word "her" and has also said he is a fan of the film.
So it might have been tactical. It might have been a blunder.
Johansson says she then hired lawyers who started asking questions.
Was there, in fact, something so close that she should have legal rights against OpenAI?
OpenAI has now taken down the voice of Sky. It says belongs to a different actress, one of 400 people who applied for the job. Altman has apologized.
Do they regret this? I don't know. They fired a bullet. It bounced off, didn't penetrate. Lesson learned.
A lesson being watched closely by competitors.
Every AI company under the sun is looking at OpenAI every single day, all day long.
As for Sky...
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
It's not clear whether she'll be heard from again. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And that's a snapshot of this Tuesday. I'll be on assignment over the next 2 days, but I'll see you back here next week. For all of us at CTV National News, thanks for watching and good night.